The record will always show that the following names were willing to dig down deep and put themselves through some of the most uncomfortable, excruciating, and tasking situations imaginable in an attempt to walk out of the squared circle with a W. It'll also show that even their all just tragically wasn't quite enough in the end though. So I am Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestlers who went through hell to win and lost anyway. Number 10, Kurt Angle is knocked out cold early on, SummerSlam 2000. In a rather cruel instance of life suddenly opting to imitate the art that was set to go down, Kurt Angle swiftly found himself being legitimately knocked unconscious rather early into his attempt to become WWE Champion at SummerSlam 2000. The plan heading into the triple threat involved Angle selling the game's announced desk pedigree as though he'd just been knocked silly, and this would have forced Kurt out of the bout for a spell before returning later on in the contest. Angle foolishly powered through the legit concussion and proceeded to fulfill his part in the chaos. Angle has since confessed to having absolutely no memory of the disturbing contest, which saw him regularly being aided through spots by his opponents and the ref. The former world champion would also class this unsettling injury as one of the 2 worst injuries he's ever had in pro wrestling, with the other being that time Brock Lesnar broke his neck with a chair shot. And after such a hellacious evening, Angle still didn't get his hands on Rocky's title. Number 9, Gunther and Liv Morgan outlast everyone but one, Royal Rumble 2023. In the case of Liv Morgan and Gunther at this year's Over the Top Rope Spectacular, being among the first pair to enter their respective matches seemed to ignite a fire within them that continued to burn for far longer than anyone really expected, picking up 8 eliminations between them and clocking a grand total of 2 hours and 12 minutes in between the ropes over the course of their grueling attempts to earn a WrestleMania main event spot. Both were no doubt in need of a serious lie down after going bell to bell in the 30-person war and still not winning the big one. Take your pick between what would have been a more painful pill to swallow after outlasting every single star to set foot in the contest but one, getting bested by the last entrant into the madness, or the person who kicked off the multi-person epic alongside you. They both suck, don't they? Number 8, John Cena refuses to get surgery on a torn tricep before his Bryan battle. SummerSlam 2013. Battling through an injury that suddenly goes down partway through a hard-hitting bout is one rather painful and sometimes silly thing, but choosing to walk into a contest whilst nursing what must have been a genuinely agonizing issue is, well, something else a bit foolish and potentially quite dangerous. Sure enough, instead of choosing to refrain from perhaps causing even more damage to his utterly destroyed wing and opting to sit out his upcoming WWE Championship defense against Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013, John Cena simply strapped up his torn tricep and went to war. And if putting himself through physical hell only to lose his precious WWE title wasn't enough, Cena's mission to put it all on the line in a clean fight, as he put it, was soon made a complete mockery of after a certain infamous authority intervention. Simply put, a little dose of Viper venom was rubbed into an already no doubt excruciating wound. Number 7, Jon Moxley takes things up a violent notch, AEW Revolution 2023. The purveyor of violence well and truly lived up to his name in his barbaric fight with Hangman Adam Page, with a multiple-time AEW World Champion shredding himself and his rival with barbed wire, butchering the Millennial Cowboy with a fork, and eating a spiky moonsault in his pursuit of glory on March 5th, with Mox dropping Hangman headfirst onto thick steel chains, the one-time WWE star tasting his own medicine via barbed wire chair deadeye, and even a damn curb stomp on some bricks, paled in comparison to the savagery on show in the war's climax. They don't call him Hangman for nothing though, and Mox being dangled out of the ring as the aforementioned heavy metal chain tightened around his throat, sickeningly cut off all chances of the heart and soul of AEW coming out of this hellish environment on top. Number 6, Kurt Angle wrestles with a broken freaking neck, WrestleMania 19. A few years on from being legitimately driven skull first through an announce desk before somehow staying conscious for the remainder of the WWE Championship contest, Kurt Angle once again found himself dealing with one hell of an issue during his eventual failed defense of that title at WrestleMania 19. Angle infamously broke his neck at No Way Out 2003, just a few weeks before the show of shows, after a botched turnbuckle spot. But rather than sit out the biggest event of the year, the then champ decided to fight through the agony and defend his strap against Brock Lesnar at Mania. Despite not being able to curl so much as a 5-pound weight after suffering the frightening injury though, Angle remarkably managed to get through the grueling epic on the night. Lesnar, on the other hand, despite coming out on top, very nearly joined the broken neck club during the main event bout too, infamously landing on his noggin after attempting an outrageous shooting star press. Number 5, Sami Zayn battles through a battered shoulder, WWE Raw 2015. Getting to make your Monday Night Raw debut in a United States Championship throwdown opposite John Cena would likely be enough to make any wrestler a little giddy with anticipation. But being given the opportunity to do all that in your own hometown and somehow not exploding with every emotion under the sun is a borderline superhuman feat. Look no further than the absolute eruption of passion that kicked off Sami Zayn's time on the main roster back in 2015. 2015 for an example of a veteran performer understandably struggling to keep his cool under such circumstances. And it was that fist-pumping arrival that ultimately led to Zayn's shoulder shockingly popping right out of its socket there and then on the ramp. Not knowing whether he was in some serious trouble or not, the eventual honorary Uce locked up with Cena for around a minute, only for the sucker to slip out of place once again after a back suplex. Zayn's arm went dead and not even the doctor could tell if it was in or out once he'd taken a second to gather himself. Zayn continued on for 10 more minutes before falling to Super Cena, and he did all that with pretty much one arm. Madness. Number 4, Darby Allin goes full Jeff Hardy. AEW Dynamite 2022. Out WTFing Jeff Hardy in the middle of a contest sporting ladders, steel step bumps, and many a weaponized chair is some achievement, it has to be said. And that's precisely what resident All-Elite Daredevil Darby Allin unbelievably managed to pull off back on May 11, 2022's edition of Dynamite. QA climbed to the top of a frighteningly high ladder as a battered Hardy lay below on a bed of steel chairs, and Allin unleashed his own spectacular and brutal swanton bomb from the heavens. Not content with eating more chair than Hardy during that insane spot, Darby then proceeded to wipe out on the apron during a coffin drop attempt gone wrong, before dodging Jeff's own swanton onto some steel steps naturally. And after all that, and even nailing his veteran opponent with his tried and tested reverse diving senton, Hardy was still able to squeeze out a win with a sneaky roll-up. They call it the most devastating move in all of wrestling for a reason, you know. Number 3, Jeff Hardy risks it all from atop a ladder. SummerSlam 2009. And while on the subject of the daring Hardy boy, the Jeff Hardy of 2022 was definitely just as extreme and absurdly bold as the one seen taking it to CM Punk at SummerSlam 2009. Feeling very much at home in his favored TLC environment as he defended his World Heavyweight Championship against the best in the world, the pair's heated rivalry culminated in a suitably ruthless showcase of weapon-assisted violence. But the wince-inducing thud that followed this particular descent from what seemed like the tallest version of the object in WWE history was enough to suggest that both men weren't walking out of this one. They did though, incredibly. Hardy was then thumped off the top of the steel staircase once more in the aftermath, leading to the visual of the chip magnet unhooking the big gold belt and reigning supreme as the new top champ. Number 2, Mankind is broken in half. King of the Ring 1998. Mankind and The Undertaker's Hell in a Cell epic at King of the Ring 1998 has been deeply shocking generations ever since. You're likely entirely aware of the story by now. Mick Foley's first absolutely outrageous tumble off the top of the titular structure was all part of the still fairly silly plan. The second one, which saw him getting chokeslammed right down to hell through the top of the cell, was most certainly not. Could both of those career-shortening, body-breaking bumps keep Mrs. Foley's baby boy down though? Mankind following that deadly double act with yet more all-or-nothing offense, including chair-assisted leg drops and the introduction of thumbtacks, told you all you needed to know about the sort of relentless figure fans were witnessing here. Hell seemingly spat Foley right back out for the dead man to deal with on the night of June 28, with the Phenom finally putting the hardcore icon out of his misery after a vicious chokeslam onto the tax and tombstone combination. Number 1, Britt Baker goes all in on Lights Out. AEW Dynamite 2021. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa's unsanctioned Lights Out bloodbath sits as a true modern great for a reason. After constantly warring with one another for months, the two top women were left with no option but to fight it out without a rule in sight, and the creatively merciless action that followed was the stuff of main event beauty. Said first ever all-elite, all-women's Dynamite conclusion also sat as one of the first real showcases of how far the talented ladies of the wrestling world could go when given the opportunity to get as extreme as the guys. Baker in particular utterly relished the chaos, eating a ladder to her skull, which paved the way for an instantly iconic crimson mask, and consuming a dreadful powerbomb on the thumbtacks throughout. That still couldn't keep the doctor down, mind. Sure, Rosa may have been able to keep her longtime rival pinned long enough for the 3 after a devastating Fire Thunder driver through a table at ringside, but the fact Baker was able to keep on fighting through the buckets of blood and continuous physical torture ensured that neither woman wandered out of this one feeling like a loser. And that's our list. Know of any other wrestlers who went through hell to win and lost anyway? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been perennial loser Gareth. Hopefully you are winning in life right this very second, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye bye!